Today we're here to talk about some of the key value we can bring to Department of Defense customers. One of the key challenges that occurs today in the Department of Defense is as they're taking a look at all their aircrafts across their different squadrons in particular, especially for the Navy, is how do we ensure that our planes are up and running and in the air ready for combat in the fastest possible time? Well, the first step of what you need to do is we need to assess where we are from a readiness perspective. Across the DoD, there are certain statuses that everyone works with. What's assigned airplanes? Meaning, what airplanes are we working with that are being repaired? What are the ones that are currently being repaired, and what are the ones that are available to me in my fleet? Well, the key thing that most organizations want to do is that they want to be able to dive down and pick a squadron and literally look at their readiness level from one month to another. Now, that's pretty fascinating because most organizations today are not able to go from a holistic view of what's going on with the command down to the individual squadrons and really assess their readiness level as well as their repair level from one month to the other. Because it's not just about where you are today from a readiness perspective, but it's being able to assess that when you want to take a look at why am I lower today from the number of aircrafts that I have, it's being able to assess what squadrons aren't performing as high as they were last year, and even down to the individual month of where those issues occur. Now, the other part I want to share with you is if we take a look at a holistic view of what's happening from a squadron, we also want to take a look at what's being done to assess the different metrics. One of the key challenges we see across the Department of Defense is there's many different inputs of information. Well, imagine you can consolidate and literally take a look at readiness at an annual basis down to an individual month perspective, and even see where you are across your different benchmarks of readiness across these different squadrons, and even go historically back in time to take a look at where were you from one month to the other. The reason why this is so valuable for you managing your squadron is that there's never been a single enterprise view of how to define readiness and also maintain that progress throughout the fiscal year. In addition, the key point is being able to take a look at each individual squadron, what's their status, and also let's take a look at the individual planes that truly are broken, that no matter what you do, you can't get these individual airplanes out in the air. Now, the part that I want to note is that these are the things you want to contrast over time. Most organizations today within the DoD, they struggle to actually see those planes that haven't been fixed. Here, why don't you see the volume and compare and contrast the squadrons yourself? Now, the other part I want to share with you is across the DoD, what a lot of the organizations work with is the concept of job control numbers. And what that really means is trouble tickets to actually repair the planes and get them in flight. Well, wouldn't it be great to literally chronologically take a look at, well, how long does it take for us to repair these individual JCN numbers? Well, one of the key problems that we see across the DoD is they do a great job of contrasting one year to another to say, well, we have 2,000 tickets that are 20 days over, but we do a great job of under 90 minutes of 7,000. The key point is let's be able to literally zero in on those 20-day numbers. Let's be able to see those individual squadrons that are taking the longest period of time and understand what's the repair capabilities, where is it coming from, what are the ones that we can't fix but we still have the ticket open. Most importantly, let's see the ones that are taking the longest period of time and compare the different work centers that are working on it. How are you able to manage performance if you can't go down to the individual organizations that are fixing those planes? You might say, well, if we have 2,000 tickets that are 20 days or over, and we realize that it's coming from this individual work center, now you can fix the problem. The other thing I want to share with you is this concept of what do we physically need to buy versus what we want to repair within the individual airplane. One of the key challenges we see is the fact that if we take a look at the performance time, most of these are hard metrics. So we say, let's take a look at an individual part and contrast that if it's under 90 minutes, we can replace it. Well, on the flip side, if it's over 90 minutes, we're actually going to repair it. That shouldn't be a hard and fast rule. Imagine that you change your metric to be 182 minutes. Well, in this case, we can repair more tickets. My point to you is, in the eyes of being ready, going from 90 to, for example, 80 minutes shouldn't be that big of a deal. But for you, as someone that's physically managing the workload of those consumables, wouldn't it be great to know that you could fix 2,000 more planes and 2,000 more JCN numbers if you just changed your metrics a bit? The part that I want to note is now you have not just your command center for your organization, but an enterprise view of how you can improve readiness. The other thing I want to share with you is that it's also about being able to have your own individual sandbox. I showed you more of an enterprise scorecard of what's happening across the different work centers. How do I make my individual squadrons more ready in terms of being able to deploy those airplanes? But sometimes someone's going to ask you a question that might not apply to that information in front of you. They might ask you, well, out of all the squadrons that you're working with, who has the highest number of requisitions that are open? Or better yet, how many have parts that are being ordered that haven't been fulfilled for them? Here is your sandbox to get those value. I like the fact that you as an individual, you can contrast what you want. You want to take a look at total number of orders? You can see that information. If you want to see the open requisitions that are coming to the squadrons, you control that. But the part that's great is that imagine you say, well, let's take a look at open requisitions. And we see here that here's our individual squadron, and we want to drill down and really take a peek of what is the type of things that are being worked on. Well, if you know that 3/4 of those values are things that you're trying to rebuy, why don't you drill down to see what you're trying to buy? Let's go down to the consumer repair type, and let's contrast between what are we buying to how long it takes for us to actually order these parts. Let's also change the view to make it easier for me to interpret my results. My last point is that when the executive asks for you to make a dashboard, just take your own analysis and insight. Save the results. And tell them, you know what? These two parts, these are my most problematic. If that executive says, well, how does this contrast with the other squadrons? Make your own results. Let them have the freedom to get their insight. And what this allows you to do is gives you an enterprise view to truly provide aircraft readiness.